it means he done f***ed up. It means the justice system has found another way to hand his ass to him. Didn't he just get out? Like, I swear to God, it feels like he just got out yesterday and now he's back in. The Nike tee explains my identity. I swear to God, I just do this shit. I don't even try. Meek Mill has just had his sentence given to him a few days ago, I believe. And he was sentenced to 2 to 4 years in prison due to probation violations. You guys know this isn't a gossip channel. I don't try to cover the lives of celebrities, but this brings up an opportunity for me to present an argument in light of everything that's been happening recently with the justice system. So Meek was just sentenced, and there's two sides to this argument here. The first is people clowning Meek Mill or trying to give him an L for getting sentenced again, alright? Now the first thing is people find, I guess, enjoyment or some kind of I think they fetishize cynicism. A lot of people fetishize the idea of being right by stating the obvious. I've seen a ton of people come to my Twitter and say, oh, isn't it Meek Mill's fault? Obviously, no shit. This is not a time to kick somebody while they're down, alright? Meek Mill is in an awkward position because he's already come out of jail once and given us an album shortly after, like 6 months after he gave us an album after he was released from prison. This was a time when he was away from hip-hop and away from the rap scene for a significant amount of time, so when he came back out, he was showing a lot of love, he was showing a lot of support, and I don't doubt that that'll be the same case when he gets out this time, but the only issue is he's already done this formula before. Coming out of prison, releasing an album, it's gonna have less effect the second time around. What if Tupac got shot 6 times twice? Get shot 6 times, makes an album about it, then like a year or two later, get shot 6 more times. The second time around it's gonna have way less staying power. So I'm kind of concerned about the amount of I guess support he'll receive after he comes out of prison the second time. I know he's still gonna have a place. I know nobody's gonna forget about him, but I'm curious to see how he's gonna bounce back from being in jail for X amount of months. People are so obsessed with making a joke about everything or trying to get some easy likes or retweets that they'll literally say anything at the worst time. People are literally joking about Meek Mill getting sentenced right now as if they wouldn't be bawling their eyes out at the thought of a 3-month sentence. Like, get the fuck, dude, go home. You know nothing about that. Why are you making jokes about it, for one? So for people stating the obvious and saying, oh, isn't this his fault? Oh, he deserved it. This is what he gets. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that this is his fault. All I'm saying is, it sucks for his career, and it's not something to joke about. Moving on to the second aspect of this argument is my disagreements with Jay-Z's disagreements with the sentence, and my disagreement with people's defense of Meek Mill in general. I don't know in what way, but there are people that have found reason to justify Meek Mill's actions because there are certain other people, and I hope you know who I mean by other people, that get away with murder, crimes, and certain other things every single day and don't really have as harsh of a sentence. It's kind of like a really sad day in my opinion, where I live in a world where people are trying to justify the wrongs of others in general because certain other people get away with it, so that crime at some point will no longer even be punishable, as if to say that Meek Mill is this 17-year-old kid that's done nothing wrong his entire life or just been entirely clean. First of all, I've known people that have gotten 20 years for marijuana. Meek Mill has violated his probation God knows how many times. Had a case about selling drugs, owning weapons, assaulting an officer, which you may or may not see any kind of problem with. Given the events of situations that happen or that have happened within the last few years, you might not see a problem with him assaulting a police officer. Early on in his career, I think around 08, he was sentenced to, I think, 12 to 23 or 24 months in prison. Ended up getting out earlier than he was supposed to off of a drug and gun possession charge. And then once he was released, he was given a 5-year probation. And I believe somewhere around 2012, he violated that probation again. And I think the judge's punishment for that violation was to revoke his travel permit. He was still under probation at this time. And then a year later, I believe he violated his probation again and was ordered to take some kind of class. Over the next few years, he would continue to violate his probation for the same thing in regards to traveling. And in 2014, he was sentenced to just 3 to 6 months in prison and only served 5 of those months. He violated his probation again early 2016 or late 2015, and the sentence in that case wasn't to lock him up again. They just told him not to work until he was sentenced. Then when he was sentenced on house arrest. If you're telling me about an unfair justice system, let me tell you about classism, alright? Classism is a state of mind where there are certain things that are given to certain people based off their social class. These things given to them can be opportunities like education, further financial plans, leniency when it comes to sentencing and the court system. And for Jay-Z, a guy who is in another bracket of social class, to call Meek's 2 to 4 year sentence something that is unjust or heavy-handed, when the dude has been given opportunities that most people never fucking get, and then given props for criticizing that same judicial system, is absolutely insane to me, especially considering that most of the people who are arguing in Meek Mill's defense are saying that it's racism when the judge that handled his case was a black woman. So you recognize racism, but you don't recognize classism. I'm telling you right now, if this was the average Joe and they violated their probation, that's like 5 years off rip, automatically. If you had the type of record Meek had, this would be easy 5 years. The judge is saying, I tried to work with you? When does that happen? People also aren't even acknowledging the fact that Meek most likely isn't even gonna have to do these 2 to 4 years, okay? Dude is likely to get released after about 10 months, to be honest with you. Okay, there's already a petition right now to reduce his sentence. I don't know if it's going to be effective or not, but there's a petition out there for it, alright? And 9 times out of 10, Meek is going to be out of prison within a year. I think that 2 to 4 thing is just to make it look scary or to make it seem fair to the people out there who violate their probation and get sentenced to much higher times automatically. Now, I'm not in defense of the justice system. I think it's all trash, but I know classism when I see it. And I don't agree with Jay-Z trying to criticize them when on a daily basis there are people that are just like Meek that aren't famous, that aren't in his position, aren't rappers, aren't artists, don't travel, that get much harsher sentences daily, who, if I did not mention, are black. If you think the judge giving Meek 2 to 4 years is her making an example out of him, you're crazy. And before you say it, I know a few of these cases have been dismissed, but it's still on your record. A judge not only goes by what you did, but they also go based off your history. My point is, this dude has been given a ton of chances, a ton, and there seems to be this sense of entitlement in Hollywood or in the industry that people don't have to pay for their crime because they're in a different social class. I get that a lot of these celebrities don't have the time and they don't know, you know, I guess DeMonte or whatever his name is that you might live next to that might be in your local neighborhood down the street. But if they took the time to look at it, I doubt they'd be speaking with such a strong sense of entitlement. That's why I even decided to make this video, because it speaks to something bigger than Meek in my opinion. Sure, he was the main person affected in this scenario, but there seems to be this strong sense of entitlement in regards to people that have a thought about what Meek Mill got as far as his sentence is concerned. And I think most of these criticisms or most of these thought processes come from people who are not thinking rationally, in the sense that they believe all crime should be justified because it's justified from a couple people. We've established that the justice system is not fair, but in some people's eyes it's only not fair in regards to race, and that's not the case. As easily explained by Meek's history with the law, we can clearly see that there's other issues like classism, in some cases sexism, in some cases nationalism. I agree with none of it, so you can hand me a million stories in the comment section about white officers killing black kids. I still feel the same way. They deserve life. If they don't get it, that sucks. That's horrible, but they deserved life. And if I'm going based off of Meek and his history with the law, I'm going to assume the same. All his sentencing proves to me is that classism is still an issue, and the justice system is more flawed than it's ever been, and it's blatant. It's blatant, and people still see a problem with it. It's been Shawn C. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Meek Mill's sentence. Of course, nobody wants to do any time in prison, but knowing to some extent how that situation is going to work out, he's probably going to be out within a year. And I don't want people to get so hung up on the fact that his sentence is so unfair, when I know and I see people with a record like his getting sentenced way worse daily. I'll see you next time. I'm out. Peace.